Hello, we have a full room. It's great to see all of you here. I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with JT Hand addressing us in a little bit. I know you want to be here because of the great fellowship that you're experiencing. Welcome to the Rotary Club of York. We are a people of action, committed to service above self and serving to change lives, as well as honoring the four-way test. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Leanne Wilson will lead us in our opening song, God Bless America, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Eric Chase will offer the invocation, and Tony Schweitzer will introduce our visitors.
Rotarians and guests, please join me in singing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would prepare yourself in the way you're most accustomed for prayer. Gracious God, our Creator, we come before you and we give gratitude, and we just thank you for the many things you have given us in our life. Clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and a great land and country to live in. We thank you for the many blessings in our lives, and we ask for prayer and grace for our speaker today, who will share with us the 205-year history of the York Water Company and helping to assist in providing us good water to drink. We thank you for the food that has been prepared, the hands that have served it, that we may use it to nourish our bodies so that we may continue to serve you, our community, and our world through Rotary. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Good afternoon. Make yourselves comfortable because we have a lot of wonderful guests today. 2 pages worth. First is Jenny Blanco, guest of Youth Leadership. Matt Sitchie, guest of Tim Staub. William Cockrello, guest of Youth Leadership. Rebecca Countess, guest of Frank Countess. Stacia Diaz, guest of Youth Leadership. Cindy Dotzel, guest of JT Hand. Tom Farch, apologize if I'm messing any of these names up. Guest of Andrew Mears. Oh, I'm sorry. Please stand up when I call your name. I was worried about trying to get through the list today. So if I already called your name, please stand up and stay standing until President Jackie has welcomed you all. Sorry about that, Jackie. Tiffany Gladfelter, guest of past President Rob Bowen. Natalie Gunderson, guest of JT Hand. Sydney Kessler Appel, guest of Frank Countess. Tim Kinsley, guest of JT Hand. Bob Klein, guest of JT Hand. John Langle, guest of Austin Schenk. Steve Metzler, guest of JT Hand. Guest Matt Poff, guest of JT Hand. Mark Snyder, guest of JT Hand. Tammy Snyder, guest of Scott Monteith. Stephen Stewart, guest of Jim May. Y'all still here? Okay. Cora Taylor, guest of Andy Rossick. Armani Walker, guest of Youth Leadership. Kim Turner, guest of youth leadership. Melanie Chrisamore, guest of Christoph. Andy Lynch, guest of Rebecca Hanlon. Marla Marcuvis, guest of Maurice Youth Leadership. I think we're all done.
It's always fun to hear the creative ways that Andy's wife's name is pronounced. So if you haven't met Andy Rawitz, please take a moment to say hello to him. Give us a wave, Andy. Yes. Obviously, JT has a few friends who knew. We are so glad that you are all with us today. We hope that you find this program, we know you will, very, very informative, and we hope that you plan to join us again often. Rotarians, please help me welcome our guests. The Student Education, you can be seated now. Thank you so much. The Student Education Committee meets today at 1:30 in the Mixed Grill. The Membership Committee will meet on March 2nd at 1:30 here at the club. We are very happy to extend a happy anniversary to Bill Reed on his 52nd year as a member. Bill joined our club on February 25th, 1970. Thank you for being a very valued member of the club, Bill. I am very pleased to introduce to you a new member of our RCY staff. Becky Rook has joined us as our part-time administrative coordinator. She just began her role yesterday, so please take a moment to greet her and welcome her to the club. Becky, I'm going to ask you to stand. There you are. Thank you. So that you can all say hi to Becky. And now for our member moment. Some might say that Sean Kenny was born with the luck of the Irish. I can tell you, he certainly was born with a bit of the Blarney. His worlds have aligned in ways that have brought people and places full circle for the better in his life. He came to York from Phoenixville to attend York College, and on move-in day met a student next door who was also from Phoenixville. He couldn't believe he was meeting someone from home he didn't already know, but he and his new acquaintance, Kevin Schreiber, became fast friends and roomed together during college and again after they both secured jobs in York. In fact, Jeff Hines and Patty Stirk were their landlords. Sean's father is one of 13 children born in Ireland and was the only one to migrate to the United States as a merchant marine. Sean grew up traveling to Ireland every year, so it's easy to understand why he was drawn to York County Farm and Natural Lands Trust, as he had been unknowingly preparing for it all his life while visiting the lush Emerald Isle, which surely influenced his interest in natural lands preservation. In York, he has always enjoyed walking the rail trail, and for years he admired a certain house that sat on the trail with 33 acres surrounding it. One day he learned that the house was going on the market by its owner, Karen McCormick, and so he made an offer and made his dream come true. Sean met his wife, Laura, while at an event at the former Strand Theater, where he served on the board. Another dream come true, along with their two children, ages 5 and 6. Laura grew up on a preserve farm in Sinking Springs, and her father was Louis Appel's dairy farmer. Sean is an outdoor enthusiast, and golf is his passion. Sometimes he plays very, very well, and sometimes not. He recalls a golf trip to Deep Creek with Dave Meckley and Scott Rogers, where he was in one of his slumps and became so angry that instead of yelling 4, he started yelling 4-letter words. His frustration at its limit, he decided to swing for the fence and proceeded to hit the longest drive of his life, over 400 yards, thus bringing some notoriety to his golf skills and the retelling of the story. But for him, the highlight of his golf career was on a golf course outside of Phoenixville while playing with his dad, where he shot a hole-in-one on the 17th. Past President Gordon Frywick was Sean's proposer for Rotary membership 13 years ago. He's met many friends over the years in Rotary who are a part of the trust and a big part of his life. JT Hand is the current board chair. Sean, thank you for your commitment to preserving our precious lands and for the lasting connections you continue to foster. And now Chris Toff with a Courageous Conversations reminder.
Good afternoon, everybody. First thing, I thought it was going to be a good idea last night to open up this portion of things by saying that 13 days ago, we finished our Courageous Conversations, but I couldn't make the rest of the speech sound anything like the original version of it, so I threw that in the trash. One thing I want to let you know, I don't know if everybody knows this, but on this date in 1954, the first mass inoculation against polio with the Jonas Salk vaccine took place at Arsenal Elementary School right in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Also, based on the topic I'm here to talk about joining Courageous Conversations 2, creating a welcoming environment, on this date in 1905 was the first Rotary Club formation, oddly enough, at the Unity Building in Chicago. So I want you to keep those two things in mind as we talk about our Courageous Conversations 2. At this point, we've got just under 50 people that have signed up for it. Some of you probably at this point have put me on the spam list as far as emails that are going out to remind you and ask you about getting involved in it. But we do have 2 sessions, one on March 1st at 9 a.m., one on March 3rd at 4 p.m. It will be done via Zoom, and I expect that a lot of you will take the consideration to do it. Also, this date, and I'm going to mess up the year, but I think it was 1948, Walt Disney's animated feature Pinocchio was released. And just so you know, we do know that if you start telling us excuses for why you can't be there next week, and it's not the right one, your nose will probably start to grow, is what I learned from that. My final this date in history that talks about being a little bit more welcoming and inclusive, and it can happen anywhere. On this date in 1970, Holy Eucharist was given by a woman for the first time in a Roman Catholic service. Opened up a whole new world of things for the Roman Catholic Church. Again, I look forward to seeing a lot of you next week. You've all gotten the email. If you haven't, you're probably getting another one to remind you and show you where the link is. And that's all I've got today. Look forward to hearing from you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I meant to mention that we're going to be kicking off Each One Bring One in March. And that is part of our, where did it go? Part of our March to 300 campaign. So we're encouraging you in the entire month of March for each of you to bring a guest each week to Rotary with the hope that perhaps they might become a member. We'll do what we did before. We'll offer some incentives and some wonderful raffle drawings for some great prizes. So please consider people that you might want to bring as a guest and that might eventually become a member. At this time, I invite past President Josh George, who is also the chair of the Past Presidents Committee, to the podium to report the nominations that are being placed on behalf of the club leadership.
Thank you, Jackie. And we're going to work on this one together. So she's staying up here. The best part about being a past president is this is my last official action as a past president. Otherwise, yes. Thank you, Al. Is there a second? So I was pleased this year to chair the nominating committee for choosing the incoming board members and also the incoming president-elect nominee. And today we have our first official action. We will do this again next week to wrap this up. But in the spirit of moving forward, the nominating committee places the following individuals in nomination to serve on the 22-23 Rotary year as board of directors: Dee Baker, Jen May, Joan Mummert, and Jules Tolbert. And they will be joined by continuing board members JT Hand, Bill Hartman, Alan Roth, and Cal Weary.
Is there a second? Thank you, past President Ann. Any additional nominations from the floor?
No.
Hearing none.
I move that the nominations for Board of Directors for 22-23 be closed.
Is there a second? Thank you. The vote to close the nomination carries, and we will revisit this next week.
Now, last year, we elected Glenn Miller as president for the Rotary Club for the upcoming 22-23 Rotary year, and he will begin to serve the club on July 1st. The past president's nominating committee places Aaron Jacobs in nomination for the office of president-elect for the Rotary year 23-24. I'm sorry, for president for 23-24. He will hold the title this coming year as president-elect. Doug Berman in nomination for financial vice president. And Doug, thank you. Appreciate that. And as president-elect nominee for this coming year, we have nominated Courtney Bailey Piccolo as president-elect nominee.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any additional nominations from the floor?
Again, no. I move that the nominations for president, president-elect, financial vice president, and president-elect nominee be closed.
Is there a second? All right, the vote carries to close the nominations. Thank you, past President Josh. We'll plan to do the official vote next Wednesday. Thank you very much. Well done. All right. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Maurice Jones to introduce our students of the month.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Good to see you all, see your smiling faces. It's a pleasure and honor to be before you once again. Everybody, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but everybody knows that the obstacles and things that we have gone through in for terms of education in regards to things. But we want to take this opportunity to honor two of our best and brightest that have persevered through, have pushed through all the obstacles that have been placed in front of them, and have continued to excel academically, socially, as well as other activities that they're doing. So we gave you a full range of our scholars that we want to recognize at William Penn Senior High School. So we have a senior. So we first want to recognize our senior. His name is Armani Walker, and I'm gonna call him up here a little bit to tell you some of his journey and the things that he has overcome. But he is a familiar face to you. He has been recognized on multiple occasions throughout York County. But he is like I said, he is a senior who has overcome multiple adversities, let alone COVID and everything that all of our students have gone through. But he has continued to shine bright and has represented our school body with class and with dignity. We also want to recognize one of our ninth graders. We want to recognize a ninth grader because she is one of our up and coming leaders that has definitely started. She's beginning to establish herself at William Penn Senior High School, but more importantly, growing and becoming a leader for her peers, for her colleagues, as well as for all of our staff and students around her. So the ninth grader we want to recognize is Stacia Diaz. So she was also going to come up after Armani just to share with you her story, share with you her plans for the future as she continues to fill out who she is. So once again, we want to thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you to the committee for allowing us the platform, especially during Black History Month. We wanted to take the opportunity to recognize our student, our youth that are not only making a difference in our William Penn community, but also in the York County community. So thank you once again. First, we'll call up Armani to share his story, his plans for the future, and then we're going to pass it to Stacia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Armani Walker, and if you can't tell right now, I am extremely nervous. But you know, I've been involved in quite a couple activities in the school, like becoming the secretary of my school's National Honor Society, where we helped with multiple events like Rocky Ridge, and recently we're trying to help seniors, help them with like signing up for scholarships, because I know a couple of them struggle with doing stuff like that. I'm going to brag a little bit, but I was recently admitted into Penn State main campus, and just yesterday I went to thank you But just yesterday, I took a tour there, and it showed me what I would like to pursue in life when I'm there, and which is going to be computer engineering, uh, which was supported by a whole bunch of my family members and friends. But yeah, I'm proud to be here. I'm glad to be a part of this school system, and that's it.
Wait there. Stacy.
Hi, my name is Stacia Diaz and I'm in the 9th grade and I'm in the 9th grade and on my spare time, I read about criminal justice because when I graduate, I want to obtain a career in the law enforcement. And I'm not really in like any too many activities, but I want to get into possibly track and also play some basketball and maybe get in some like clubs in school. And that's really it.
So once again, Rotarians, we thank you and we appreciate this opportunity. These are very few select amount of our brightest and boldest scholars who exemplify our ideals at William Penn Senior High School, where we're continuously creating opportunities for students to be successful. And that's only done with your support, with your constant support, with your constant recognition, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Rotarians.
Congratulations, Armani, on your acceptance into Penn State. Go Lions, that's awesome. And Stacia, I think you may be the very first freshman student of the month that we've honored. That is quite an achievement. Well done. We wish you both much, much success in your further studies and in your success in career. And we hope that you'll come back and join us often. Before we move into our program, it came to my attention in the celebration of the 10th anniversary for the Uptown Rotary Club that I had the pleasure of attending this past weekend with several members of our club. And we learned that Rotary International has put out numbers that suggest that we have 46,000 clubs participating in Rotary around the world and 1.4 million members. So I had to do some checking on that because when I started my year in July, it was 36,000 clubs and we were shooting to get to 1.3 million. So, hey, we're doing a heck of a job, aren't we, this year? So I just want to say, I asked them, what is that about? And evidently they're including all of those Rotaract clubs. So they're now a part of the total numbers of Rotary around the world. So we're really a part of a huge, huge organization doing incredible, incredible work. And I wanted to point that out to you. And we are still the 26th largest club among those 46,000 clubs. So that's really something to celebrate. At this time, thank you. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mark Wheeler, who will introduce our program.
Thank you, President Jackie. Stacia, 9th grade, phenomenal. For you to be able to get up here and do what you just did, that was phenomenal. Take a deep breath. You did a great job. Armani, we are. The staff is coming around now, as you may have seen in the back. We have a birthday cake today for everybody. Today is the 206th birthday of the York Water Company. February 23rd, 1816, the York Water Company was founded. So coming around today, Mr. Meckley, we're not giving you all the choices you normally would want. We've got one choice, and it's York Water birthday cake. So please enjoy, everybody, on the birthday cake. For those of you, as you have time leaving today, Rotarian Fred Rosemiller, thank you, Fred, has put York Water memorabilia in the history cabinet right as you take a left out this main door. Fred, thank you so much for that. There aren't any candles on the cake. If you tried to put candles on my birthday cake at this point, they wouldn't fit. 206 are definitely not fitting on the birthday cake. So very excited to be here today. We're celebrating the country's oldest investor-owned utility with the longest consecutive dividend run. It's a truly historic company and a great day. I am tasked and honored to introduce our speaker, fellow Rotarian, and my boss, JT Hand. If I'm feeding off of the last several meetings going back, oh gosh, Mike, months now, JT, you look very nice today. For those of you who've been here, you get the joke. Jackie, you as well, as always. JT started his time with the York Water Company as Chief Operating Officer in 2008 and has been President and Chief Executive Officer since March of 2020, which we all recognize as the start of COVID. I believe we dated it as 10 days in, something like 10 days into his stint, COVID hit, kind of a thing. A great timing to take over as leader of the York County's longest continuous operating private enterprise. Say that 3 times fast. Ladies and gentlemen, JT Hand.
Armani, I get nervous every time. I get nervous every time I stand up in front of a group. And it's not because I'm scared, it's because I'm passionate, right? It's not because I'm scared, it's because I'm passionate about the message that I want to project. So never get worried about being nervous standing up in front of a group, even this group of august Rotarians. Mark, I'm so glad that you didn't introduce me as your sweet Valentine, as was done last week. So thanks so much for not doing that. It's wonderful to have the entire York Water Company team here today as guests of mine today to be present for this. They are really the reason why we're able to accomplish that which we're able to accomplish. It has everything to do with the employees of the company and what they have given to the company and to this community for the better part of 206 years. So about a month or so ago, I was out on an evening with past President Patty Rooney and President-elect Aaron Jacobs and myself. And as you know, Patty Rooney, he doesn't drink. Aaron Jacobs doesn't drink. I've been known to have a beer once in a while. But in their honor, we said, you know what, we're not going to have beer tonight. We're just going to have tap water. So we ordered from the bar matron at the time. We said, give us 3 of your finest tap waters in a glass, little ice on top of it. That good York water is going to satisfy our thirst. Matron put the 3 glasses in front of us, looked down, and was like, oh man, that looks refreshing. Just as we did that, 3 flies dropped into those glasses. Plink, plink, plink. Well, you know, Patty Rooney, he was the gentleman of absolute refined taste. And he saw that fly drop into that glass of water and pushed it away. I'm not going to drink that. Aaron looked down in the glass there, saw that little fly there. Aaron's a kind of a bold guy. Reached in, pulled the fly out, flicked it away. Cheers. Like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Waste not, want not. I looked in. I saw that little fly in there. I reached in, I grabbed that little fly, picked it out, and said, spit it out! Spit it out, you bastard! We don't waste water where I come from. And I'm not going to give my water to any fly that just happens to drop into my glass. As I said, we're so very, very fortunate to have the members of the York Water Company team here today. In addition to having them here, we've also got representatives from Gannett Fleming, Bob Klein, and representatives from Kinsley Construction, Tim Kinsley. That is our project architect engineer for the project, Gannett Fleming, and our general contractor for what is going to be the single largest construction project in York County once it's under construction. So happy 206th birthday. That's just some statistics for you. 18 states when we were founded. People still moved as fast as a horse could carry them. Railroads didn't exist. Telegraph didn't exist. Pumps were operated by hand. You've all seen those pumps operated by hand. France had just banished Napoleon, founded in 1816. James Madison was the fourth president of the United States, finishing up his second term as president of the United States. And Rotary Club of York was still 100 years away. 206th birthday. So we are a publicly traded company, and Matt Poff, our CFO, would remind me if I didn't at least have some form of a safe harbor statement in my presentation today. So nothing I say today can be held against me should you decide that you want to invest in the York Water Company. That investment is not secured by anything I say today. Matt, thumbs up. Auditors, thumbs up. I wanted to start with this slide right here because I think it's really it's just a great slide to look at. And this is a quote that came out of the York Dispatch. It was just February 2nd, so really not that long ago. And the York Dispatch was talking about not the York Water Company's dam, but Indian Rock Dam. And the comment that they had was that if you want an example of what far-sighted infrastructure investment can accomplish, look no further than the 80-year-old Indian Rock Dam. And they finished this comment by saying, that's how infrastructure, and they use the word spending, should work. You pay a little now to save a lot later. Well, we call that spending investment. It's actually an investment, right? It's an investment in the community. It's an investment in infrastructure. It's an investment in the future. It's an investment. So we were last here, York Water, when we celebrated our 200th anniversary. So about 6 years ago. Jeff Hines was actually at the podium. He stood here, gave a very nice presentation about the history of the company. And on that date, pretty much, we were trading at $24.94 a share. And I stand before you today, having closed out 2021, trading at $49.78 a share. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about investment, and what the yield is from that investment. Now, in this case, we're talking about a yield on investment in a stock. When we start talking about Lake Williams Dam, we're talking about an investment in infrastructure to the benefit of our community. Lake Williams was constructed in the year 1912. 1912 it was constructed, and within 10 years, the York Dispatch, the very same dispatch that credited the Army Corps of Engineers for Indian Rock Dam, 10 years later, what they basically said is the Lake Williams Dam is a blunder. It's a terrible blunder. It was a terrible investment. Too much land, too much space, not far-sighted. Absolutely, it was imprudent, an imprudent investment of the York Water Company. And it's going to be the customers who are going to have to pay for it. It was a blunder. Two years later, redemption. The drought proves the worth of the impounding basin. The York Dispatch is back. They're friends of ours again. It wasn't such a mistake. This idea of thinking to the future, planning for the future, investing for the future, hey, that's not such a bad idea. Is there a cost associated with it? Absolutely. Is it a prudent investment? Absolutely. And the Lake Williams Reservoir, at a capacity of only 600 million gallons at that time, proved its worth and proved to be a prudent investment. That's what we look like today, right? Everybody's kind of familiar with this. Those who have been in the area, you know, we have the two impoundments. We have the Lake Redmond, which is the upper impoundment. We have the Lake Williams, which is the lower impoundment. Water Street comes down across here. Currently there's a bridge and a road that crosses it, which has been closed. And then you head out Water Street out towards Reynolds Mill Road. That's a total of about 2.2 billion gallons of water in storage. 2.2 billion gallons from the initial 600 million gallons back in 1912. That's what it looked like under construction. So this is construction. These are the construction techniques, 1911 and 1912. You can see what the usage was of equipment. There's the most powerful equipment we have. Horses, buggies. We did have steam tractors at that time, believe it or not. There were steam rollers at that time. Steam rollers, and the steam rollers were actually used for the compaction on the backside of the dam. And that's what the dam looked like prior to being filled, just prior to February 15th of 1913. East branch of the Cadorus Creek, there's the crossing, there's the bridge and the roadway that crosses Lake Williams Dam. And those are some spectators sitting up top there waiting for the dam, waiting for the reservoir to fill. It wouldn't fill until the middle of February of 1913. But I want you to think about that. Construction was started in late 1911. It was filled by February of 13. 17 months, start to finish. 17 months, start to finish, to impound 600 million gallons of water. Now, I'm not sure if any other projects in the area have taken longer than that, like Mount Rose. 17 months with horses and mules and quite literally manpower. That which was accomplished in 17 months, PennDOT can accomplish in 17 years. Anybody here from PennDOT? You're holding my permit. So let's orient the map. And I know this map is very, I know Ron Hirschner, Rotarian Ron Hirschner, he knows this map better than probably any of us here. But, let's orient this map back to 1913 and what Lake Williams, what became Lake Williams, what it looked like in 1913, right? So right there, there's the old Baltimore Pike right there, now known as Susquehanna Trail. Right there is the Dietz Mill property. Across the street from the Dietz Mill property is the Dietz Mill tenant house. And if you look at the Dietz Mill property and the Dietz Mill tenant house, there's the Dietz Mill property, there's the Dietz Mill tenant house. And if you drive down Susquehanna Trail today, you'll see the Dietz Mill tenant house is now property of the York Water Company. So that is our house. We call it now the Lake Redmond house. If you look at the map that we have right here, when we flooded the valley, again, East Branch of the Cadorus Creek running through the valley, when we acquired these properties, these parcels, and then we're told way too much land, shouldn't go into rate base. When we acquired all these parcels, we did have to inundate 5 farms. 5 farms were covered. Basically, we removed the timber because timber was valuable back then, right? Anybody who had money to be able to saw timber, we removed all that. The foundation sat where they are. And that is the foundation, remnants of the foundation for the house that sits right there. And that is a leather shoe, which was discovered when we drew the lake down. And that is the foundation sitting right there, which is represented there and represented right there. That's what construction and traffic loading looked like in 1911, 1912, right? We didn't have to worry too much about that. This idea of an automobile, that was still a long ways away. So that's what we designed this for. Those were the loadings we designed it for back in 1911. And that's what it looks like today. So we're going to fast forward to 2018 and, what are the changes? What are the issues that we're facing in 2018 that we didn't face in 1912? Well, first of all, it's a state road. So Water Street is a state road. So the state owns the road. We own the dam and the bridge. So yeah, we're a private dam owner and we're a private bridge owner. We own 2 bridges in York County. Lucky us. We don't collect tolls for the bridges. We don't get resources for the bridges, but we own the 2 bridges. So we own the bridge, we own the dam. And other than the fact that it is a shortcut for Rotarian Jim Anderson, because he likes to travel that way, it really doesn't bring a lot of value to the York Water Company other than access to the left and the right abutments of the dam. So that's what dam and spillway construction looked like in 1912. You can kind of take a look, just see what the techniques were. Can anybody find the York Water Company manager in this picture? The superintendent of construction. There's the superintendent of construction right there. You know that that's the superintendent of construction because he's wearing a tie. And if you look at the members of the York Water Company team who are sitting at the table right here today, they're all wearing ties. Why is that? If it was good enough for our predecessors, it's good enough for us. Something got us to where we're at. So yes, they're wearing a tie. And I noticed that our chief operating officer, best chief operating officer in the history of the York Water Company, is also wearing a green tie today. Something Mark and I get to talk about quite often. And that's what it looks like today. So that's what it looks like today. That's a recent shot before we actually started drawing it down, but that's a recent shot of what Lake Williams looks like, what the dam looks like from the spillway. Bastille gates are up, increasing the capacity by 4 feet, bringing the total capacity to just under 1 billion gallons of water in storage. Water flows over the spillway and then rejoins the east branch of the Godorus Creek and then down to the south branch of the Godorus Creek. Of course, no project is ever completed until Rotary inspects it. So Rotary had a chance to come visit us in 1926. They wanted to take a look at this thing called Lake Williams, and they got in their automobiles and they left from King Street and they drove down, and they had an opportunity to stop at the tenant house, the Redmond house. And apparently they had apples and they had cherries. That's what they had, was apples and cherries, and a fine time was had by all prior to continuing down and inspecting this reservoir of 600 million gallons. And Rob Bowen and I have been talking about another visit by Rotarians. In this case, we want to take everyone down to our Brillhart pumping station and show you a little bit about what we've done down at Brillhart pumping station to bring that pumping station up into the 21st century. So I know Rob is going to see if he can't get some type of a Rotary event together for that. So 96 years later, after the Rotary Club of York inspected and approved, what's the issue? Well, regulations change. Development changes. Construction methods change just a little bit. Clearly, models like hydraulic models, precipitation modelings, all of those things have changed. And of course, corporate, community, all of our risk tolerance has changed, especially as we look at potential litigation, regulatory compliance from lots of different regulators that we have to deal with, to include the SEC and the PUC and the DEP and the SRBC and all the others that all the other engineers and municipal officials here have to deal with. We too have to deal with it. Things have changed in 96 years. That's what it looked like back in 1961. So that's Lake Williams, 1961. You can notice that the vegetation, the reforestation around the lake, pretty spectacular, pretty spectacular. In 1912, we planted 1 million trees. 1 million trees to reforest what had been agricultural bottomland, right? It was the creek bottom. We reforested it with 1 million trees, and that's the result of 1 million trees worth of planting. We were the first environmentalists in 1912. We were the ones who figured out that if you can plant, you can protect. If you can invest, you can sustain. 1912, that was the vision back in 1912. And we continue that vision today, and you're going to hear a little bit about that with this project. So again, just orientation for those who are not familiar with it. You can kind of take a look at what has development done to that Lake Williams. Same acreage from 1912, same acreage, but look at the encroachment. Look at the encroachment from Leader Heights, from Jacobus, from the subdivision development here. And oh, by the way, in the previous slide, what wasn't in that picture? You can just barely make out Susquehanna Trail right there. There is no Lake Redmond right there. And oh, by the way, there's no Interstate 83. All of that has happened since. That's what we look like today, with Redmond as the upper reservoir, Williams as the lower reservoir. Just jumping back just a little bit further, taking a look again where Redmond sits, where Williams sits, spills from Lake Williams, east branch of the Godorus Creek, merges with the south branch of the Godorus Creek, flows downstream. We draw from the Brillhart pumping station, and then it intersects again with the west branch of the Godorus Creek to flow through the city of York as the main stem of the Godorus Creek. So what is the issue? There is a lot of downstream development from our two impoundments, to include the city of York. What else has changed? I'm not sure if anybody's noticed this or not. On average, we get about 42 inches of precipitation in South Central Pennsylvania. It's pretty impressive, right? We are a precipitation-rich community. We're very, very fortunate. We don't have the challenges that they're having in California and Nevada and other places out west, 42 inches. But have you noticed? It seems like we're getting the same amount of rain, but it's coming so much faster. You may remember when you had a 1-inch rainfall event, you were like, oh, we got an inch of rain coming in. Got an inch of rain coming in. Now it's like we got a 3-inch rain event coming in. 3 inches, and people don't blink an eye. So it's the intensity of the precipitation events that has definitely changed. 42 inches, but it's coming in very, very much bigger bursts, shorter periods of time. It's changed. So what are we designing towards? Well, we're designing towards those precipitation events. So the storm of record that affected Lake Williams, our impoundment there would have been Tropical Storm Agnes, sometimes called Hurricane Agnes, 1972 in June, where we dealt with a flow of 16,200 cubic feet per second. 16,200 cubic feet per second. And now our capacity of the spillway is 35,000 cubic feet per second. So we could accommodate 16,000 plus in our 35,000 cubic foot spillway, right? Everything was good. Well, I think I mentioned things change, regulations change, modeling changes. That is no longer going to be allowed. We now have to accommodate over 107,000 cubic feet per second. So the storm of record, 16,000, we have to accommodate 107,000. Now, our consultant with Gannett Fleming, we've had this conversation many times. What is the probability that we're going to have a rain event that's going to yield a flow of 107,000 cubic feet per second? God willing, not in my time, because that is biblical. That is beyond biblical. But is it possible? Well, there's all this modeling out there which suggests that there has been a location, estimated 34.5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period in Smethport, Pennsylvania. Therefore, modeling leads to having to prepare for a precipitation event which would fall in that magnitude across our watershed, thereby creating 107,000 cubic feet per second event for the York Water Company. Now, I do notice, and you do too, there's New York at 11.17, there's Ohio at 10.75, and there's Pennsylvania at 34.5. It's a model. It's based upon an actual event, which may or may not have some anomalies associated with the event, as in, did they actually empty the beaker in which they were collecting the water? The guy who was there, he thinks he did. Not sure. And then complicating matters, we have this recent dam failure that many of you may be aware of, the Orville Lake, a dam failure, which was as a result of a spillway failure. You may remember that slide that I showed you. Let me see if I've got it on this one here. So there's our spillway right there. And if you look at the spillway right there, there's the spillway right there coming off the bascule gates. That spillway is not founded on bedrock. It's built on fill. What was the Orville Dam spillway built on? Fill. It creates a failure mechanism for a dam that was constructed like ours was constructed over 100 years ago. And that is not going to be allowed by the Department of Environmental Protection's Dam Safety Office. Therefore, we have to replace the entire spillway. A whole spillway has to come out. And we have to accommodate 107,000 cubic feet per second, which means the entire dam, whoa, that was fun. The entire dam becomes a spillway. So what could that look like? Well, at that rain event, you're going to have 10 feet of water over the top of Lake Williams. 10 feet left to right embankment, all the way to the highest elevation, 10 feet of water flowing over the top of Lake Williams. It'll create 5 feet over the top of Lake Redmond upstream. That's the flood of 33 in York, Pennsylvania. So the flood of 33, that was the impact flood of 33, August 23rd, 24th. I believe that was a 12-inch rain event. We're looking at a 40-inch rain event. That's what it looked like on Market Street. Suann, I'm not sure you recognize that or not. You might recognize that Hotel Cadorus just a little bit, but that was the impact on Market Street. That's 32,000 cubic feet per second. In 1933, that's the impact at Market Street. Remember, we're accommodating for how much? 107,000 cubic feet per second. That's 32. We're going to accommodate for 107,000. That's the Agnes storm of June 21st to the 23rd, 1972. Again, 12 inches of rain. That's what it looks like from Princess Street. So you can see the magnitude of 12 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. It's a significant event. 12 inches in 24 hours is a significant event. It has significant consequences. Can you imagine what 40 inches of rain would do? Can you imagine what 107,000 cubic feet per second would do? As a result of all that, we have to rehabilitate the Lake Williams Dam. And we started that, as many of you know, 3 years ago with the first phase. And we closed the Lake Williams Bridge. We closed the crossing at Lake Williams. We put the signs up, we closed it, and we lowered the lake for the first time in the reservoir's history. And we had to replace the outlet structure because the existing outlet structure was on the upstream side of the dam, and we needed a structure on the downstream side of the dam. So we lowered it and we put the outlet structure in, and that outlet structure is phase one of the project that we're undertaking right now, so that we can get the water out of the lake. Got to be able to get the water out of the lake. It can't flow over the spillway, so we got to pull the plug in the bathtub so the water can get out, and that's through the outlet structure. So as you remember, we closed that bridge right after Labor Day in September 2018. We had that fish out. Some of you may recall we had that fish out then, $5,000 tournament. Anybody who wants a fish? There were trophy tags on each of these fish. You'd catch the fish, turn in your tag for a prize, for a money prize, and the proceeds went to the York County Parks. Anything that was left, we relocated from Lake Williams into Lake Redmond. And we relocated a lot of fish. Apparently, Lake Williams is a pretty popular fishing spot. Go figure. We relocated all those fish from Lake Williams to Lake Redmond. And that following summer, how was the fishing in Lake Williams? Okay, wake up now. Like the lake was empty. Pretty bad. How was the fishing in Lake Redmond? Spectacular. This is the best fishing ever. This is awesome. Yeah. Can you do that again? No, can't. Once every 106 years. So as I said, we drew down that lake for the first time in history. There's that photo again. There's the original 1913. There's that farm foundation right there. There's that farm foundation right there, over 100 years later. And right there is the spring house for the workers' camp. And you will see that spring house for the workers' camp popping up out of the water here in the not too distant future. You'll be able to see that spring house yet again. Again, that's just another view of kind of that foundation and where that foundation currently sits right now. That's what the lake looks like when it's empty. I'm sure some of you saw that. We are posting that lake as off limits and no trespass because we are very concerned, believe it or not, people will trespass and they will go look for things in the bottom of the lake. And even though the bottom of the lake looks like it's pretty solid, it's very, very soft and it's very, very silty. And people have been known to go up to their knees or their waist. And we do not want to have to extract anybody. So we will post it as off limits, no trespassing. And those who do trespass will be cited. Last time we did this, we cited 134 individuals for trespassing. 3 of them took us to court and the York Water Company won all 3 of them because it was posted as no trespassing. It is private property. And that's what it looks like looking at the dam from the kind of from the water side. So it's going to look like again. And all of this that we have to do, we have to be able to do without interruption to our customers, right? You know, this is that proverbial, you're changing the transmission while the bus is rolling, right? We still have a responsibility to supply water to 202,000 people each and every day without interruption. None of our customers are going to say, hey, it's okay if we don't have water for the next year. You guys go take care of that dam. No, we've got to be able to provide for the needs of our customers throughout the project. And we've done that through, again, investment. Mark Schneider and his team, the engineering department for the company, they designed and constructed the Lake Redmond pumping station. This is an alternate pumping station, which allows us to draw water directly out of Lake Redmond and pump it directly up to our treatment plant. So Lake Williams can be empty and we continue to move 20 million gallons of water per day up to our treatment plant to take care of the needs of the customers and the communities that we serve. Again, it's got to be done without interruption. This is part of the reliability redundancy element of our investment. As originally conceived prior to things like Oroville, it was a relatively straightforward project. It was a roller compacted concrete on the spillway. It required us to armor the backside of the dam and the side slope of the dam. The spillway would have remained. That's the spillway right there. spillway would have remained, the bridge would have remained. And it really would not have looked all that much different other than below the soil, there would have been roller compacted concrete. The bascule gates in the for the reservoir also would have stayed. And again, what happened? Orville. So now we have to replace the spillway, which changes everything. There's that shot. There's the spillway under construction. There it is right there. There is the dam right there, founded on not bedrock, but fill. Same situation that occurred at Orville. So we're going to remove that spillway. That's what it's going to look like. That is the rendering of the new Lake Williams Dam. A couple things you're going to notice. There is no bridge. There is no way to go from one side to the other. The bridge is gone. We cannot have a bridge over the top of this high hazard dam, which has to carry 107,000 cubic feet per second over the top. The math just doesn't work. We would have to construct a bridge 12 feet in the sky to be able to have the water pass under this probable maximum flood event. And the millions and millions of dollars that we would have had to spend is just not worth the squeeze. Even though, Jim, I know you really like that shortcut. Just wasn't going to work. We tried. So you can see that really this results in a significantly different appearance in the dam, capacity in the dam, and then armoring structure for the dam. This is really kind of what it looks like, kind of looking at a plan side. This is a great shot right here of, what we call this little serpentine detail right here, trapezoidal weir and a serpentine detail. This allows us to increase the pool of Lake Williams by 1 foot. So we're going to actually raise the elevation of the lake by 1 foot. It adds about 60 million gallons of water in storage. Not a lot, 3-day supply, 3.5-day supply, but it's a benefit of raising the weir structure a little bit. We get a little bit more storage capacity in Lake Williams. Again, we're looking to the future. A lot of construction activity is going to have to take place in order to be able to do that. So we've worked with Kinsley, we've worked with Gannett to lay out what the construction routes are going to look like to be able to get all of that concrete, all of that equipment, all of those materials in place. Not a simple project, especially if you've been down Water Street or Reynolds Mill Road. You know what the carrying capacity of those roads are. Not really designed for this level of construction activity. One of the biggest questions we have, and this is mostly from those who like to recreate Lake Williams, is, are you going to replace the trail? Are we going to be able to get around? And the answer to that is yes. So, as you know, we have a 50-year lease with York County Parks. York Water Company public-private partnership with the York County Parks. William H. Kane County Park is the largest park in the York County system. 1,600 acres of private property, which is leased to York County for $1. For the recreating benefit of everyone who lives in the community to visit. So we want to make sure that those recreational opportunities remain, and we will create a bypass below the spillway so that those who like to recreate on the trails can still get around the dam. It was suggested that maybe we could put a ferry in or something like that. No, we're not putting a ferry in. You want to get around the dam, you gotta walk. And it's going to be steep. Coming up the backside here, it's going to be a little bit steep. But that's for the hardy folks. If you don't want it steep, then you go over to Trail 1. We're also going to be installing cul-de-sacs. We're going to be closing Water Street. We're going to shut down Water Street, close it. Cul-de-sacs on either side, and the road, which is currently Water Street, will become for pedestrians only. And it's going to be a very, very nice trail for customers, for visitors. And that's the timeline, just so you see. Really, we're looking at a 2-year timeline. From now, taking us out through middle of 2024 before it's complete. It's a very long project. It's got a lot of different steps in it. It's got a lot of complexities in it. And obviously, as you all understand, it's got a tremendous amount of permitting associated with it. That's what the timeline looks like. If you have any questions, we're going to continue to post on our website so we can keep everyone informed, let everybody know what's going on. We ask that you and all of your friends and all of your neighbors please respect the private property rights of the company when we close it, right? We do not want to cite any Rotarians, otherwise that's going to be in the York Dispatch next. Rotarians cited for trespassing. So please respect those rights, and we're going to get this reservoir restored to its current condition as quickly and as safely as possible. That's one thing that could absolutely derail the entire project, and it would create a failure, would be to have an injury during the construction operation. So we're very, very attentive to that. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have. If I have 10 seconds. One question. I have time for one question. Go ahead, Al. The regulations drove the modifications of the dam. Yeah, regulations come first. Regulations always come first. Yeah, they always come first, and then we respond. Great. Thank you all so much. I appreciate everybody's time.
As you can see, JT is a very passionate fellow, whether it's looking at the stout in his glass or the fly in his water. He really loves his work, and it shows, and we're the recipients of that great talent. So thank you and your team too for all that you're doing to revitalize this lake. JT signed the book for us, Dig by A.S. King, which we will give to William Penn to take back with you in honor of JT's presentation today. Next week, we'll hear from Rotarian Martin Fedorko, founder and managing partner of White Rose Ventures, an innovation catalyst working with partners to promote entrepreneur-led economic development in South Central Pennsylvania. Joining Martin will be Alexa Bourne, executive director of the Braided River Collective, the nonprofit support arm of White Rose Ventures. Martin and Alexa will discuss the origin stories of both White Rose Ventures and Braided River Collective. They'll discuss the venture capital industry as well, and why York, why now? In closing, our quote is by James Baldwin, author and activist. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. I hope you have a great rest of your week. This meeting is adjourned.